Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Vajza Gra.
My name is Dita.
And I'm Dajana. And we hope that you enjoy this episode.
I know you got approved for Raya and it took you like 7 months. I still haven't been accepted. It's been 2 months and I'm getting very, very impatient because I am so ready to start dating again. I haven't been ready. I have not put myself out there in such a long time. And I don't like Tinder because it just feels like the guys on Tinder, I'm just like, I would never actually link up with you. I've never linked up with anyone from Tinder. I just use it to fill my ego, honestly.
I've actually never ever went on a date from a dating website or anything. All the people that I've met them like in person or at most like Instagram, if anything, if I haven't met them in person to begin with. And I applied to Raya because my friend Louise, like, she's always talking about the app and she's like, you have to apply. I applied for it literally like 8 months ago. Mm-hmm. And I just got the email that I got accepted like when I told you a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, I applied to it because I was in a point in my life where I was like, oh, let me date, whatever, let me see what's out there. And now I'm like, I'm not there right now. So I'm like, I'm not going to use this membership so you can have mine.
Can I please?
You can log in and pretend to be me and then show up on the dates. Like, they're going to be like, you look a little different from your pictures.
That's so true. I was texting my friend Aya the other night. I was like, I think I'm ready to start dating. And I don't know if it's because I'm just lonely.
Love it.
I don't know if it's because I'm just like lonely and bored, but I really want to get back out there. But I was telling her, like, I don't think the love of my life is in New York. I really don't.
That's so crazy.
I really don't.
That was me in Michigan when I was like talking to people at my college or whatever. I was like I was not taking any of those situations seriously because I'm like, there's no way in a world of billions of people, my husband is in Michigan.
Yeah. And I also started watching, you know, the show Emily in Paris?
Yeah.
Yeah. I started watching it. Oh my God.
You think I
could totally in Paris.
I could totally see that.
Can you really?
I don't think he's around here. That's for sure.
He's not around here. And
knowing
I remember
your
when I went
type?
to Paris. Yeah. Knowing my type. Yeah. And
I really don't think your man is in the United States to begin with.
I only date foreign men who aren't Albanian, but foreign men.
Speaking of dating Albanians, I feel like we've had a lot of interest in this topic, and this led us right into it. But today we're going to be talking about dating outside of our culture. And after we posted our dating episode, which went crazy.
Yeah.
Then we had a lot of interest and a lot of emails and DMs asking us when we were going to talk about dating outside of our culture. So we decided to come back to this topic with a part 2. And
we're gonna highly requested. So we're like, oh, we definitely have it. Because we were going to touch on it anyways, but just knowing how highly requested it is, it's like, I know. Oh, shit. Yeah.
We had a plan for this to be a little bit down the road, but everybody keeps messaging us about it. We get a new message about this like every 3 days or something. I feel like. Yeah. So here we are filling your requests. So if you have any other ideas that you want us to cover, feel free to DM us or email us or everything. Yeah. But I'm really excited about this one. Yeah. I feel like it's going to be juicy.
This just proves that we listen to what you guys want to hear. So
we check all of our messages, all of our
emails, and what actually drove us to start this episode sooner than we planned was because we got a very long and detailed email from one of our listeners.
I'm so excited.
And I've been waiting to talk about her email for a while now. So let's get into it. I'm really excited.
Tell us a little bit about the types of people you date. Have you dated an Albanian before?
Actually, my first quote unquote boyfriend when I was like 14 years old was Albanian, and that was so bad and it traumatized me. So I never dated an Albanian guy after that. But to be honest with you, I had no interest in dating Albanian guys because, like, the Albanian guys in New York are not my type at all. Not my type at all. And when I went to high school, my high school was full of, like, white kids. So I kind of just started getting attracted to, like, what I was around. But interesting enough, when I went to Kosovo, I was way more attracted to the Albanian guys back home. Oh my gosh,
Kosovar guys are so hot in my opinion.
They're so hot.
Compared to like, I mean, I'm from Korça, I'm from south of Albania, so like, But compared to those types of guy, Kosovar men or
yeah, dude. When I went to Kosovo and I was in Pristina and I would just spend my days like drinking cappuccinos and smoking cigarettes, like I mingled with so many like young guys, and I was like, what the hell? Like the Albanian guys in New York are not like the Albanian guys here. So
in what sense?
They were just so laid back. They were really cool. They were very respectful. They were so open-minded. And
I think
they were very like outgoing. Like I remember this one guy, he was an artist and he took me to like the University of Pristina. Like we just walked into his university and he was like showing me all the art studios. He seemed very well-rounded. That's what it is. They're very like well-rounded. Like they're not so they're just exposed to different cultures, and they're well-traveled and they're educated, and they're really cool back home. Like,
I think that's the difference between
what happened.
Yeah, no, I think Kosovar men are really like that compared to Albanian men. I think Albanian men have, in the sense, I mean, we're all Albanian, we're just trying to do the differentiation here, but I think Albanian men have more of like a hardworking mentality. They're extremely hardworking people. I think Kosovar people in general, not just the men, I think they try to enjoy life a lot more than we do. Maybe it's because what they went through in their history, and they look at life as like,
oh, that's true,
like a thing that they should cherish. But I think they take a lot more advantage of like opportunities, and they indulge themselves in a lot more things than we Albanians do,
like culture and stuff like that. And we keep touching on like my type. My type is just like a well-rounded, educated, liberal guy, like very open-minded and foreign. I don't like, I've always dated like a guy in America who's like foreign. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because
I feel like foreign guys, their way of like dating and showing affection and love is like so different from American guys. Because I've like had, you know, situationships and stuff, but they were always never Albanian. But my first actual relationship was with a non-Albanian guy, a Canadian, so still not in America.
Yeah, fast. Foreign enough.
Foreign enough, yeah. I said what's foreign, but like slightly close.
Right, exactly.
Canada.
Yeah. We going next door, baby.
We go. It's Drake.
No, but really.
My ex is Drizzy.
I'm screaming. And mine is Travis Scott.
Travis Scott's from Michigan? No, he's from Texas.
Is he?
He's from Houston.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, so with that being said, so like I said, I've never had a real relationship with an Albanian guy. I never talked to an Albanian guy at all. And thankfully, and I know a lot of people do not have this privilege, but thankfully, I don't have the expectation to marry an Albanian guy from my parents. Obviously, they have their own limitations of like who they want me to marry. They have their own standards, but it's not like you have to marry an Albanian. And that's a lot of the cases with a lot of Albanian women, and in my family too, and even my Albanian friends. So I never had that pressure. So when it comes to dating outside of the Albanian culture, it's kind of hard for me to relate to someone who's going through this, because I don't have to approach that situation in a sense.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I can see both sides though, because I've dated outside of the Albanian culture, I can see why Albanians tend to want their daughter daughter and son. I say daughter because I don't feel like Albanian boys have this pressure as much as we do. Do you think so?
I can speak from my personal experience. So for you, I feel like people who were born here and have spent their whole life here, I feel like they, like from my friends that have done the same thing as you, I think they have similar experiences to you. Like their parents don't really necessarily care, or it's not like a big deal to them for their kids to marry somebody who is Albanian, or date. We'll use those interchangeably in this episode. But I feel like in the beginning, when I first like got to college or whatever, there was like this indication to kind of look for somebody who was Albanian. And my mom would say something like, well, if you're going to the University of Michigan and there's Albanians there, that means they're smart and they have goals for themselves, which is like one of like the main criteria that I look for in a person. Didn't find anybody in Michigan that was Albanian.
Really?
No, like I found people that were Albanian, but somebody that I wanted to date that was Albanian.
Oh, okay, like, okay. I was like, damn, no Albanians studying at the University of Michigan?
No. There was actually quite a bit of Albanians in that university, but none that I was like
attracted to.
Yeah. And like I don't know if that's the reason. Like I just don't find Albanian men like physically attractive, or I just haven't met somebody who I'm like, okay, like you're doing it for me, you know?
Yeah. I'm glad you touched upon the physical attraction, because I think that what makes me so unattracted to Albanian men, it's not because they're not good looking guys. There are a lot of good looking Albanian men, but I think it's the fact that like I disliked Albanian men so much because of how they treated women that I have, and it's not a good way of thinking, and I understand that. But my body, it just can't do its thing for an Albanian guy, because I'm like, he's gonna call me a whore. Like I have this trauma. I feel like he's gonna hold my hand, he's gonna call me a whore, he's gonna tell everyone. Like
I feel like a lot of my unattractiveness towards them comes from like their behaviors. It's not even look wise. Most of the time, I feel like it's just like I find their behavior either corny or like.
But that's what it is, the behavior. Like, oh my God, he's going to go out with me one day and then he's going to tell his whole family that who I am and they're going to call me a whore. Like,
yes, yeah.
So it just like, it just played into like the shame factor.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually brought up family, because I feel like that has a lot to do with it. Like I said, in the beginning, I feel like my parents were indicating that like, I know, like actually not even indication. I know my parents would ideally have me and my sister marry Albanian guys, because we moved here when I was like pretty well into my life, like 11 years old. That's literally half of my life. So another reason is like my parents are not fully indulged in like the American culture the way that I am, for example. Like 90% of my life at this point is like American culture, me at work, me with my friends. For them, it's like they still speak Albanian at home. They don't fully speak English. So it's like they still carry a lot of our traditions, and they want us to be able to do the same thing. And I think mainly for them is like they want us to be able to bring somebody home and them to have a good relationship with our husbands. And I feel like they can't necessarily do that with somebody who they can't fully communicate with, if that makes sense. Like I can bring my American husband home, and it's like my dad won't be able to necessarily like talk sports with him, or, you know, be able to bond and be able to like see their point of view and everything. And I think that's mainly the reason why they would prefer us to date or marry somebody who's Albanian. I do feel that they've switched over. Like we've spent most of our life in America, and they know like our expectations for somebody we want to be with and everything. So it's kind of flipped a little. Like they could see the point of view of us being able to marry somebody who's not Albanian. But I know deep down, if they could pick, they would pick an Albanian guy. And I'm like 90% sure my sister is going to marry somebody who's Albanian. I don't know why. I just have a feeling. So I'm like, at least she'll fulfill that part of their dream, because I think they've already lost hope when it comes to me.
That is such a good point, because I wanted to talk about, because this is one of the cons that I'm talking about. So I've only brought one guy home to my parents ever.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous about him meeting my parents, because like you said, it's like I was just thinking the whole time, first of all, my parents never talked about dating, and then all of a sudden they like want to meet my boyfriend, and it was so foreign to me, and I was like, oh my God, like this is so nerve-wracking. And I remember they actually came to meet him because something happened with my car, so my parents came through and they were like fixing my car, and then my dad met him.
Like, who's this? Who's this inside your car?
Yeah, I'm like, Dad, yeah, you know. It was a little nerve-wracking for me, and the situation was a very like lighthearted situation. They came to like come fix the car, so I was like, okay, while my parents are here, like let me introduce you to my parents and whatever. And I think my dad was like really excited because my dad has never met a guy. It was so wholesome. And my parents were like, oh, let's go out to lunch. And I was like, no, it stops here. Like, no. I was like, no. I was like, you guys meet each other. Okay, this is one step. But I didn't want to take that extra step. And it was because I was so nervous about how my boyfriend at the time was going to be able to like relate and bond with my parents, especially my dad, because my dad is so OTB. He's so OTB. I think he built the boat from Kosovo to America. Like when he talks, like you just met my dad. Like, yeah. So like my dad has like a weird sense of humor that I think only Albanian people understand. So there's this kind of like not barrier to relating or a barrier to bonding, but there is though, because like I was just nervous about it being like an awkward situation when we're all like at lunch and like kind of just sitting there like not knowing what to talk about. But that wouldn't happen with an Albanian guy. Like if I had brought an Albanian guy, we would have went and got like some chabapa, and my dad would have been able to talk to him in Albanian and ask him about his whole family.
And where they're from and how they eventually know somebody who knows somebody who knows them. Oh, you know
this guy, I know that guy, I worked with that guy. Yeah. So and then their bond would just build off of that, because it's like there's just like this unspoken understanding of each other when it comes to being Albanian. And I think that's the part where I can see how like that would affect the relationship, because I would want my boyfriend to like hang out with my dad. Like I think at one point my dad had actually texted me and was like, because I was going to work and my boyfriend at the time was going to stay in my apartment. And my dad was like, oh, why doesn't he come grab a beer with me, you know? And I was like, no, we're busy today. And, you know, I don't know why. It was like so nerve-wracking for me for them to like be alone.
And I think it's more so like, is the person mature enough to be able to understand my parents' point of view in situations?
A big one.
And that's how I determine if somebody's like worth my time or not. Because it's like, if I brought you home to my parents and my parents tell you about a story when they used to live in like the village or something when they were younger, like what is your reaction going to be? Are you going to be able to like joke into it or like understand where they're coming from, or like are you going to be like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And like whenever we date outside of our culture, especially Americans, because like if it's somebody in Europe, they can kind of pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody like an American, let's say
American. But I think that has a lot to do with maturity, and it has a lot to do with their personality, because I've met people who, when they're dating Albanians, they take that extra step to like learn a little bit of the language. I remember with my ex, I would teach him like a little bit of words like here and there. So like it takes a partner to know like how important and how embedded your culture is in your life. And if they take that extra step to learn a couple words and learn a little bit about the history and like be able to engage and, you know, be open-minded, that is beautiful.
That is the hottest thing ever.
That's in regards to every culture. Like, have you, you know when these like, when like a Latina girl brings a white boy home
and they do the bachata.
Yeah. And it's like, I see so many TikToks of this, or like if a black girl brings like a white guy home, and then like you'll see TikToks of like the white guy like trying to fit in, like, you know what I mean? But the outsiders are making that extra step to make their partner feel like, oh, I'm trying to be included with your family.
Yeah.
Like, we rocking with Mark because Mark's rocking with us type shit, you know what I mean?
I also feel like it has to be one person in the family that takes that step for the rest of the family to feel like they can accept that and like ease up a little bit. Like, for example, in my family, my cousin came to the United States for an internship. She met this guy who she fell in love with while she was here. She went back to Albania and like they were in a long distance. Like nobody knew about this, but they were in a long distance relationship for like until the next summer when she could come back for her internship. And then after her second year, she went back home and was like to her parents who speak zero English, like zero English. She's like, by the way, I met somebody, like I love him. This is it. And like those family members who live in Albania and have no idea like anything about, like, at least my parents have lived in America and they know somewhat the culture and like what happens. They speak most of the language, like stuff like that. These people, like my aunt and my uncle, know nothing about like America besides what they've heard in the news or like whatever.
Oh God, yeah.
And for them to be able to fully accept this person.
They accepted him.
Oh, they love him.
And he's what?
He's American. He lives in Ohio.
Oh, shit. I love that for her.
I know. Like, and like, okay, so I feel like they fully accepted him. He went to Albania to meet them, like after the second summer. That. They like fully took him in. They got engaged like shortly after. Like now they're married. They've been married for like 2 years, something like that. But I think a part of it that made my aunt and my uncle so open-minded to it is like you can be in a room and you will feel the love he has for her. Yeah. Like that's how much they love and care about each other. And like if you see your daughter being that happy, like why would you not accept somebody who is able to give your daughter everything she wants from a relationship? Yeah. Like
let's actually save that point for later on in the episode, because that's a huge point we need to touch on about like your child's happiness versus whatever the fuck the village is gonna say about your daughter.
Yeah, we can get more into like the technical aspect of like why Albanians do like to stay within our culture, but like
because this is a podcast. We are educated women and we can look at things from both sides. Both point of views. Okay, so I already mentioned one, so please don't come at me. Yeah. So I also want to touch on the men versus women on this topic because I think there's such a double standard. And I am only talking about my experience in my family and what I have witnessed. So if you can relate to it, cool. If you can't, just listen.
We need to be better at that.
What?
We need to be better at listening.
People in my family have married or had kids with non-Albanians, but a majority of them are men. But the few that are women aren't embraced like the men. The men bring non-Albanian women home all the time around the family, whereas Albanian women, before they can even bring their partner home, they're already looked down upon. Like everyone's already talking shit about so-and-so's daughter dating whoever that's not Albanian. So that already, like when you know people are talking shit about you, you're already going to like shy away from being around the family with your partner. Whereas like the Albanian men in my family, they bring girls home like no tomorrow, or like that's what I saw growing up. So I think there's such a double standard. And people want to use the argument of Albanians dating outside of the culture being a bad thing because it's gonna prevent them from embracing the culture. But I think that your rejection is causing the embrace of the culture. Because think about it this way. With my partner, right? My hypothetical partner, if my family was already judging me and already judging him for being non-Albanian and already had this preconceived notion of him and who he is and whatever, I don't think my partner would be comfortable being around my family. I mean, like in general, why would you want to be around people who don't want to be around you? Yeah. It's like a very nerve-wracking thing to be around somebody else's family in general. But knowing that they already dislike you because you're just not one of them, like it's such a shame. If we embraced or if we welcomed non-Albanians with open arms, they would get the opportunity to indulge in our culture and our language and traditions. And the fear that you have of not preserving the culture or having it live on will be diminished. Why? Because when your daughter brings home the partner loving your daughter enough will take that action to be a part of the culture and all that. And I've seen it happen a lot. Same. But I've seen it happen with older women outside of my family. So I had dinner recently with one of our podcast guests. She was in town in New York City with her partner, who is not Albanian. Mm-hmm. And we went to Çakaçalu in Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, and we were eating Albanian food. And when I tell you,
so beautiful. I'm so sad I wasn't there.
When I tell you this man knew more Albanian than I do, he was talking to the servers in Albanian. He understood the menu. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And
shout out, Matt.
Yeah. And he's an active listener to this podcast because he loves to learn about his girlfriend's culture.
Yeah.
So he watches this. He actually watches this because of her.
Yeah. Like one of his comments on one of our YouTube videos was, this is great insight in being able to understand your Albanian woman that's by your side and be able to understand her experiences and why she thinks the way she thinks and why she acts the way she acts and how much of it has to do with the culture in general, which is so cool to me. And I hope that one day when I am in like a full-blown relationship with somebody who's not Albanian, like they're willing to do that for me. And I feel like the right person, the person that cares about you and loves you, will openly do that, because I mean, if you care about somebody, you want to know about their background, but like it's just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I could tell he appreciated our culture so much. So we went to Chakachalu, and then we went across the street to this place called, I think it was called Wine and Coffee. And we ordered the Skenderbeg wine, and we were drinking Skenderbeg wine. And he was like, oh, I want to go see the street sign. And he was reading about the wine and where it came from, like Stone Castle and all that. Mm-hmm. He was talking to the sir. I swear to God, every place we went to, Matt went inside to go talk to the entire staff in Albanian just because he wanted to like show off. I was like, Matt, you're so adorable. And then later on at dinner, they told me that they're going to Albania for 5 weeks in the summer. You know why? Because they want to spend a year in Albania. So Matt is going to go and spend a year with her.
Crazy.
So do not sit here and tell me that there is no possible way that a non-Albanian cannot indulge in the culture and appreciate the culture. Like, look at this guy, for example. So I think Matt is a perfect example about this.
I've seen it happen.
And you know why? And you know why Matt is able to do these things? Because his partner's family welcome him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to fight that barrier. So he's learning Albanian. He's hanging out with her family. He's traveling with her family. So obviously the culture is still alive in that aspect. Yeah. So that completely disregards the argument. Now, if you're dating someone who chooses not to embrace your culture, that's a different story.
Yeah, I agree. But I do feel like it takes a certain level of maturity, it takes a certain level types of person, a certain type of care that a person has to have for you, or consideration to want to get to know more about you. But if they're showing that they care about you and they care about your culture and they want to learn about it and be a part of that aspect of your life, then I just don't see a reason why we need to, number one, not let people be happy in their relationships, and then number two, not open ourselves up to like people getting to know us, like our culture. Yeah. We have such amazing traditions and such amazing food and family values and music, and it's like, why can't we just share this with the rest of the world and be able to?
I don't know why Albanians are actually, I do know why they're scared of this, because we went through a lot of shit to keep our culture, to keep our people alive. So I understand why they have that fear. But that's a whole different topic. That's a whole different episode. But I want Albanians to know, like, other non-Albanians want to get to know our culture.
Yeah.
You know, it actually makes me really sad when I posted a TikTok and it was like, point of view, like, I'm your Albanian girlfriend. And I used the Albanian flag, and somebody commented and was like, I don't even know what flag that is.
Right.
Like, yeah, like, this would be an opportunity to like expand like our culture and our flag and all this stuff, and that'll make it live on too. So before we touch on all the topics that we want to make, because we do have to still touch on why it's so controversial and why it's a rule, and many other topics after that, I want to read the email that our listener sent us, because I really want to elaborate off of it. So she gave me full permission to read this email out loud verbatim. She did ask to remain anonymous though. So her email follows. I have been in a hidden relationship with my now boyfriend for almost 5 years now, with few breakups in between. We started dating when I was 16 and he was 17, and have pretty much stuck together ever since. I didn't expect it to go this long, neither did he. It always starts like that.
Okay, let me tell you.
We were teenagers with no idea on how to navigate a relationship, but eventually learned to grow together, and now we're inseparable. I always get asked on why I haven't introduced him to my family yet. I just turned 21 and he's turning 22 soon. This is considered a good age in our culture to bring home a prospective husband, right? I'm like,
I'm 22 and I'm like,
I'm turning 24 and I'm like, married. Okay. My boyfriend is from Chile, South America. I hope to God I pronounced Chile. I hope to God I pronounced that right. I'm sorry for my ignorance if I did.
Chile.
My boyfriend's from Chile, South America. Being from an Albanian family, this could be nearly impossible for my family to accept. I do believe and hope that it could be done because we often hear Albanian parents are more concerned with appearances. That being said, my boyfriend has a lighter complexion, even being mistaken for Italian. I think that if my parents do eventually accept this, it'll be because he doesn't, quote unquote, look as bad as a darker skinned Latino. None of us want to kick our parents down and accuse them of racism, but the fact of the matter is that racism and colorism is very prevalent in Albanian culture. It's interesting though, because my boyfriend has an all Albanian best friend group since high school. He listens to our music, eats our food, and even has vacation in Ulcin with his friends. I have known them since I was 16 too, and that's how we started out dating. He understands my situation completely, but it's disheartening to tell him that we cannot introduce him to my family unless he plans on getting engaged soon. I don't know if I should introduce him without an engagement happening soon after, because I think my dad would be more inclined to accept this relationship than he would that will soon be an engagement rather than having just a casual boyfriend and girlfriend. I also don't know the outcome of revealing this information to my family. If my father is really angry and kicks me out, if they accept it, if they don't speak to me, it's hard to say. I don't know what to think. I have met his family and I'm very close to them, especially his mom. Aww. Their family reminds me of mine, patriarchal and strict on respect. Oh, I said that wrong. Patriarchal and strict on respect. His parents are very understanding to the situation, but I can tell it hurts his mom for us to have such a hidden relationship. I have gone away with him on weekends before with the help of my friends. Those are some good friends. But whenever I'm invited to family vacations or huge gatherings, it's depressing because I have to say no just because I'm an Albanian. I'm allowed to go out though, even though I don't really do because of school and work. My mom and I are very close. It's literally us against my dad most times. I can't tell her about him because I know how scared she'll be to hold this secret in case my dad found out she knew. I also think she'll be really disappointed in me, even though we are basically best friends. She'd never stop speaking to me. I know that. I just can't risk telling her. Everyone I know loves my boyfriend and tells me that this will all be worth it. He has remained by my side through everything. I just got chills. He has remained by my side through everything from my sophomore year of high school till now, almost graduating college. I have heard of a few family friends who have married Latino men. One of them was successful with no backlash really, but the other had been disowned by her father. I remember my dad saying that the father over-exaggerated and that he would eventually come around. But some people don't accept this at all. My dad said, I hope I won't have to be in that position. Oh. Yeah. So he thinks the father over-exaggerated with his daughter, but he still hopes that he never has to go through that situation.
Usually that's how I test my parents. Like, I'll be like, my friend... The whole time it's me, yeah. But my friend did this, and then I'll see like how their reaction to shit is. So that was a good tester right there.
Yeah. By the way, sis, you should use this podcast and show this to your parents and see how they react. I'm gonna continue. I guess I just need some advice on how and when to approach this with my family and what I should do or say to prepare for this. Even though I am so young, I do not see us breaking up. The only times we have is because of this situation, the hiding and sneaking around where he felt like he wasn't good enough for me. He has accepted it since, and we continue to plan our lives with each other in mind. I'm planning to go to a 4-year graduate school after undergraduate. Good for you. So I don't know if I should consider telling my father before I graduate. She's currently finishing her junior year. Okay. I'm sorry for the essay long email. Don't worry about it. I guess I just needed an outlet. This could absolutely be shared on the podcast because I want to help everyone in my position. I just ask for anonymity due to how small the New York City Albanian community actually is. Everyone deserves love and happiness no matter the race, sexuality, or religion.
Period. Let them know.
I first want to applaud this young girl who reached out to us. And your emails will never be too long for us.
Exactly.
Because this I have chills. I have chills all over my body.
It's so cute to me that they love each other that much. Yeah. Like since that young of an age.
I mean, like if somebody's sticking by your side for 5 years, like, and has been there for you, and like that just like shows how much they love you.
Yeah. I think
so. Let's start. Let's dissect this. Let's dissect this.
Yeah. Let's do that.
So you had a point you wanted to make.
Okay, so I kind of just want to dissect this part by part. I know she said like they started dating. They've been dating for almost 5 years, which low-key is a really long time.
It's a really long time.
Like I feel like at 5 years, people start having kids, and
in most cases,
yeah, like it's quite a long relationship. But I know she mentioned like Albanian parents are more concerned with appearances. It's not necessarily that they're like will be against this relationship. It's more so like what is the community gonna say, and like with her being with somebody of color,
she's using air quotes, by the way, if you're listening.
So it's just like he's so already embedded within our culture with all of his friends being Albanian.
I highlighted that point.
He knows like our music, our food. He knows what our country looks like. He's been vacation there, and it's
his
just
whole
like
friend group is Albanian.
Yeah.
So, and this is the point that we touched on earlier about like, why do Albanians think that non-Albanians are not going to be indulged in our culture?
Right.
This Latino man is clearly indulged in the culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another thing is like she mentions how she's scared to like introduce him to her family without like an engagement coming up really soon. I think that also comes from like our traditions dating back forever, where like, what's it called when they set you up? What type of marriage is that?
Arranged.
Yeah. Like from really old days, we would have like Albanian women would be like almost promised to families where it's like, your dad finds your husband for you and like has the conversation with the dad of the son, and it's like a done deal. Like it used to be a done deal, like no questions asked to you whether you want to be with that person or not. Like, and like we still continue those traditions where it's like if you're going to introduce somebody to the family, it's like you're going to get engaged to this person. Like you see yourself being with this person. Yeah. So I can totally see her point of view where it's like if I introduce this person to them, that means like I take him so seriously that like this is my person. Yeah. And that's how I look at relationships too, not having introduced anybody to my family before. I look at situations now, I'm like, if I waited this long to introduce somebody to my family, it's gonna have to be somebody that I've been with for 5 years and like I see myself getting married to. And I think part of that comes from being an immigrant, because you don't want to introduce your parents or expose your parents to people that are like just temporary in your life. You want to make sure that they're there for good. If you're going to take the chance to like bring them home, especially when it's a situation where it's like, are they going to disown me? Because if I'm going to put myself on the line and to lose my family over this person, then they need to be somebody who's really worth it. So I could see that, and I could see how horrible of a situation this can be to be in, because you love somebody 100%. And you're like questioning if the two groups of people that you love so much can come together.
We as Albanian women have this fear of being disowned, right? And it's such a terrible, terrible thing to have to consider. There's two ways. I see two ways, okay? Because if I was with someone for 5 years and they held it down for me for 5 years, and I just know in my heart that this is my person and they have been there with me through thick and thin and they plan to be there with me, being disowned by my family wouldn't be that much of an issue. Like in their LGBTQ plus episode, she said that she was mentally prepared for her parents to disown her, but she knew at the end of the day she had someone to hold her and be there for her. And that's the part that's exactly what I was so comforting. That's the part that's so comforting when you're in this situation, is that like, you know, like if you get disowned by your parents, like you're gonna have someone at the end of the day who's gonna be your ride or die, you know. And that is unconditional love. Okay, you get disowned by your family, you marry someone, it's all lovey-dovey in the beginning, whatever. And then what happens, God forbid, what happens if you guys split up? And then you're like, fuck, like I lost my family over this person, and then you have nobody. And that's the part where I can understand why this is such a frightening decision, because it's literally like, do I lose my entire family, my entire backbone to my life over one person that I love? It's a very, very risky thing to do. You know, I've never been married before, but I know that marriages in general, like I know like the first 2 years of marriages are supposedly supposed to be like the hardest thing. So being freshly married in general, whether you've been with the person for 5, 10, 15 years and you're just now getting married, marriage is very, very hard. So I think it would be even harder marrying someone and having to face the burden of being disowned by your family. I think that it's going to cause a lot of issues. And not only that, but subconsciously, I hate to say this, I'm so sorry, it's going to cause resentment towards your partner. Yeah. Because I was in a kind of similar situation. I don't want to relate this to me that much, but I was in a long distance relationship with let's call him Mr. Toronto Man, because I've talked about him enough on this podcast to give him a nickname.
We'll call him Blondie.
No, he's Mr. Toronto Man.
That's too long for a nickname.
Okay, Blondie. So I was in a relationship. I was in a long distance relationship with Blondie. And there was one point where I was really, really sick and tired of being in a long distance relationship, and I wanted to move to Canada to be with him. And this was towards like the end of our relationship. After we broke up, obviously I never ended up moving to Canada, but I remember thinking that was probably the best decision, because at that point when I wanted to move, I didn't have anything. I didn't have my education. I didn't have a stable job. I didn't have future plans. So if I were to pick up and move and go live with him, I would have to be starting all over. And I knew that it was going to cause resentment and tension and extra pressure on him, because he needs to make up for it because I left my country, and you know what I mean? So
it's like our parents telling us, I left everything for you. Yeah. Like it would be the same thing where you're like, I left my family for you, and look at you now.
Yeah. So,
but I'm glad you brought that up, because similar, like her situation is she's planning on going to a 4-year grad school after undergrad. So she's like, should I tell my family now, or should I wait until after grad school?
Well, honey, are they paying for your college?
Oh,
that's something to consider. First of all, let me tell you something, girl. You having your education, you already have a 1-up, because you know damn well you are not going to be dependent on them. So it's very tricky when you're financially dependent on somebody. So you having your own education and career, that's one less thing to worry about, because at the end of the day, whether you're still with this guy or whether you're disowned, you still have your own shit together. So that's a plus.
That's one way to look at it. But there's also this way, like, let's say it takes a couple years for the family to come around and accept him, right? Because I feel like at the end of the day, a parent that really loves their children, once they see their child happy with somebody, even the worst of situations, I feel like a parent comes around.
No, I don't think.
Like, you don't think so?
No.
Like, I'm trying to put myself in her shoes, and I'm like,
I'm thinking if it was a situation, extreme cases where the family just doesn't
come around. Yeah, if it doesn't come around, then I feel like Dita said, you are solid enough on your own to be able to make the adult decision to take a chance on your relationship and just make it happen. I mean, you yourself said you don't see yourself with anybody else, so like, it sounds to me like you're going to do this regardless, whether your family is with it or not. You just want their approval, obviously, of course. But also at the same time, it's like, if it's gonna take, because her dad did say they would come around, so I'm like, is he trying to hint that?
So is he trying to? Yeah.
He would come around, and if that's the case, and it's gonna take a little while, then maybe you should tell them now so that they have a couple months / years to come around and process, and then by the time you're done with school and you're actually ready to get engaged or married, or depending on your life goals, then they will have had their time to process. So they've had enough time to be like, okay, well, she's gonna do this regardless.
That's a good way to do it, because I don't think you should jump right into it and be like, Father, I am engaged. Why don't you approach your dad and say, Bob, or whatever you call him. I just call my dad Bob. Bobby. Explain the situation to him, so that he knows how real it is, and then give them time to process and digest, but let them know that there's an engagement in the future. Like, this is not
like
just a
we're
boyfriend.
serious.
Like,
we've been together for a while. Maybe you shouldn't tell your dad you've been with him since 16, because then he's really gonna be pissed.
Yeah, maybe lie a little bit.
Twist the truth a little bit. But
maybe
I do feel like, also another thing is like, are you living outside of the family right now? Do you live with your family? Are you living with them when you're in grad school? Maybe you want to consider that, because it's like, if you tell them and you don't live with them.
She's sneaking around, so wouldn't that imply that she's living with her family?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think so.
Like, if you're living with them, then I could see how that would make you even more cautious, because you're coming back home every day to them being pissed. Whereas it's like, if you're living on your own, like, for example, me, if I tell my parents and they're pissed, like, okay, but I don't see them every day. I just don't call them every day, which, like, I'm so used to talking to them every single day. They probably won't call me every day, which it's not as the dramatic life change as like me going home to them every day and then
like facing it. Yeah. That's
so like that also depends on that sort of situation. But I think the sooner you tell them, they can start, because at this point, you know, you're going to be with that person. It's not a question in your head, where to like some relationships, you're still trying to figure it out. You still want to see if that's the person for you and if it's worth putting your family through that. But it sounds like you already know that this is your person. So like, get it over with.
Rip off the Band-Aid and
just wait and see how they're going to come around. But I kind of want to go a little deeper into like, why do Albanians do this? Like, why is this?
If you want, you can show them the video from this point.
Yeah, literally. But this turned into like, what would Dita and Dajana do? But I kind of want to take it back to like, why is this so controversial? Why do we have these rules that are we're so stuck on for literally no reason? And like, kind of take that route in the conversation. So like, how we kind of started talking about how this is so embedded in our traditions, where like a girl would be set up and the decision was already made for her. Our parents, I feel like, almost want to continue that tradition, where it's like, although they might not pick your exact partner now, they want to have the ability to ask around about him and be able to know what his family's like, and if he comes from a well-rounded background, and if there is any history in the family. So like back in the day, if you wanted to marry somebody, your dad would go to that village or city or whatever, and they would like literally ask around about them. Like, what do you know about this family? Like,
Albanians know about
they're nosy as shit. So I feel like now, although they might not be like the person that find your husband and are like, hey, this is a great guy for you, which used to happen back in the day, they still want to have that ability for you to bring an Albanian guy home and them know a person that knows a person that knows his dad, that know his family, you know, and they can still be able to like ask around and make sure they're like reputable enough enough for them to like hand their daughter over, which is like they can't do that with an American, because what are they going to do? Go to Idaho and find somebody who knows this dude? That,
I mean, if you're that desperate, hire a PI. But the thing that really bothered me with like that whole idea is like, why the fuck do you need other people to tell you about your daughter's partner and who they are? Just get to know the daughter's partner. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's more of a traditional thing where it's like them wanting to be able to be involved in the process. Like, Albanians take family extremely seriously, and them being able to be extremely involved in their children's lives is like something that Albanian parents take extreme pride in. So them being able to be a part of this huge life decision for their daughters, even their sons, they take pride in being able to be like the determinant. Like, I feel like the dad has a huge role when it comes to this in Albanian cultures. And I think they take pride in being able to find a, in quotes, good husband for you, because they don't always turn out to be good. And also, it's like, we have our weddings that last a week. We have these traditions where they come and pick up the bride from the house on Thursday. And it's like, we like our traditions, and we like to keep the language, and we like to keep the family like really tight. And they think that by having somebody in the family who is able to understand these things to like the core level, not by me telling my American boyfriend, like, this is what we do at our weddings, this is how we do our family dinners, this is how we celebrate Bayram. It's like they take pride in being so tight and have that core understanding when they sit at the dinner, like they know what they're referring to, and like, you know. So I get it. I get our parents' point of view. But like, as far as immigrant children, it's like, you bring your children here from a very young age. I moved here when I was 11. You bring children here with the hope of them being able to indulge in this culture and learn about this culture and take advantage of this culture. So then why don't you want them to take advantage of the people that they meet here? Like, you can't help who you fall in love with. Like, if you're,
that's a really good point.
If your whole life, I understand if you're very embedded in the Albanian culture still, even when you live in America or wherever you live, but not everybody is like that. Like, for me, I didn't really hang out with Albanians once I moved here. Like, I knew a lot of them in my college or high school or town, but I didn't really hang out with them, and I didn't really establish relationships with them to the point where I would get to know a guy and actually like start having a crush on him and stuff like that. Like, it was always like a distant knowledge of Albanians. So you can't expect your children to move to a country to take advantage of everything and meet new people and all of this, and still expect them to always be stuck on this, we have to marry within our culture. Like,
preventing your children from dating outside of the Albanian culture is so hard to maintain when they were born and raised in America. Like, you literally moved to the country that's known as the melting pot for like every culture, every race, every religion to live freely together. So how do you expect that to have absolutely no influence on your children and who they choose as a partner? It's such a hypocrisy to me. Like, oh yeah, use America's economy, use America's this, blah, 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 blah. But don't ever dare to like westernize us with like who you choose to marry. It's like very, very hypocritical. One thing I also want to move on to is like the happiness and the well-being of your child. And I think this is like the most important thing to consider when your child dates outside of the Albanian culture. What is more important to you? Your daughter being happy and having somebody who treats her so beautifully? Or are you so concerned about what people are going to say to the point where your daughter ends up marrying somebody who satisfies your needs but doesn't satisfy her needs, and then she's miserable? Why would you put that upon your daughter? And like, putting your daughter's happiness over the reputation is so... it's so heartless.
I just hate how everything we do revolves around what irrelevant, not just people, but irrelevant people would say.
Yeah, like relatives coming out the woods have something to say. I swear to God.
Like, first of all, I didn't know you existed.
Who are you?
I didn't know you existed. Second of all, I'm like something that people don't understand, even with your parents, like I'm the person that's gonna live with this person every single day. I'm the person who's gonna create a family with this person. I'm a person who's gonna have to deal with them and help them and have them as the person who's watching my back. If I feel comfortable and good enough about this person doing that, then you as my parent who's gonna see them at most maybe once a week if you're really close with your family, or once a month or whenever, you should be happy that I found somebody that I just feel so good about, even if they're not from where I'm from. I don't know. I think it ultimately all comes down to the happiness of your child. If you're willing to put what people who, I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm sure, like let's just take my cousin as an example. I'm sure many people had something to say about her marrying somebody she didn't know in America, blah, blah, blah. She's the happiest she's ever been. My aunt and my uncle decided not to give a crap about that. They love the guy. He treats their daughter like a princess. So it's like, what, people are still talking, but okay, and what about it?
And like you're gonna cause more harm and more distance and more strain by shunning your daughter because of who she's dating. Like you're gonna lose your daughter because of who she's gonna end up marrying. I don't understand that. And then you wanna, okay, so you create this distance with your daughter. You disown her, let's say, hypothetically speaking. She goes ahead and has kids. Do you really think those kids are going to be indulged in the culture when they can't even get to know their nona and their baba? Like,
and the thing is, like, do you not want to be
creating the strain between the generation, the traditions living on? Because like if your child has a kid that's half Albanian, you can still like embrace that, have that other side, but you have to welcome them with the open arms to do so.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you're literally, your fear, you acting out of fear is making your fears turn into a reality.
I feel like in all the cases actually that I know, whenever a girl has dated somebody outside of our culture, even when she's been extremely scared to tell her family about it, she has told her family. And even when they don't accept her, she still continues with a guy. So it's like, in the cases that I've seen personally, they're going to do that regardless. So it's your part as a parent to decide if you want to continue to be a part of your daughter's life or not.
I mean,
that's what it comes down to.
Love always wins at the end of the day. Yeah. Your daughter is going to go to who makes her feel loved unconditionally. And if that's not you, then maybe you don't deserve to be in her life.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to say that we have this mentality where we are so closed off to other cultures, but we still want to benefit from them at the same time. And then we're so closed off to our child's happiness because of what people are going to say.
And to keep
all things that are extremely irrelevant if you really think about what's important in life, which is keeping your family together and being happy and not giving a fuck what other people have to say ultimately.
And I mean, like, this is kind of off topic. I just want to throw that out there, but and this is like people outside of your family. I'm not talking about like her family, but I've seen this thing. I've seen it where like Albanian guys get so offended when an Albanian girl is dating a non-Albanian guy. They don't even got to know the girl.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And I think it's just like this weird like possessiveness that Albanian men think they have towards women, and it's like they even want to like control like who they go to bed with. Like, ew. Like you need to like mind your business.
You know what I hate? It's when...
Wait, what did you say earlier about Albanian guys? You were like, if you're not going to treat us...
Listen, if you're not going to treat her right, somebody will.
If you're not going to treat Albanian women right, somebody will.
And that's facts, because sometimes they're so angry about like... What was it? I think it was the TikTok where I saw this girl post the TikTok with her black boyfriend.
Yeah.
And it was an Albanian girl. I think they live in London, I want to say. But there were a bunch of pressed panini pressed Albanian men in the comments talking about you're a curve. Why would you couldn't find a half of them were like you couldn't find a white guy. The other half was like you couldn't find an Albanian guy. Which regardless, either way, it's giving yucks. But the thing is, she couldn't find somebody that treats her the way he does, and she couldn't find somebody that she loves the way she loves him. So why are you so pressed? Why are you so pressed about somebody's life that's not yours? Somebody's child that's not yours? Like, regardless, that is a decision that a person makes for their own self, because that is a person that they will go to bed with every night. Not you, not their mom, not their dad. Them themselves will deal with that person every single day of their life.
And another thing, I really, really hate it when like I'll be talking to like really, really old fashioned Albanian guys, and I'll be talking about this topic, and they're like, yeah, but you know, we got to keep the bloodline pure. I'm like, first of all, it's giving Hitler. Keep the bloodline pure. Pure of what? Anger issues? What? Literally. What the fuck? What is so pure about the Albanian bloodline? Like, what the fuck? As if we're not all fucked up in the head. Like,
facts. I mean,
I hate that. I fucking hate hearing that. It's so disgusting.
Listen, there are plenty of girls that are Albanian that want to marry an Albanian guy.
Oh, and good for them.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are plenty of them, but there are also the ones who might not find these people attractive, might not find these people amusing, might not fall in love with one. Don't want to, period. Because there shouldn't have to be an explanation. I don't want to, and that's that. So, like, do what you gotta do to be happy. Yeah. And that's all. Like, these things should not matter. Keeping the bloodline pure, like, what? Keeping the traditions alive. It doesn't take who you marry to keep the traditions alive. It takes if you want to keep them alive or not.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what it comes down to. Because I, for example, want to make sure that even if I marry somebody who's not Albanian and we have kids, my kids, even when I marry somebody who's not Albanian, I want my husband to learn a lot about my culture, the way I think, why I think in this way, which has a lot to do with my culture. I want him to learn some sort of enough language to impress my mom when he meets her. And when we do have kids, I want my kids to be fully indulged in the culture where they hang out around my mom, they learn the language,
and
their cousins, exactly. So that's because I want to keep my culture alive, and I want to continue the traditions that we as Albanians have, and I want my future husband to experience the way I was raised. That doesn't mean that would die off because I marry somebody who's American or French or whatever. So ultimately it comes down to, if you want to, you will, and if you don't, you won't, whether it's an Albanian man or not. You can start speaking English with your Albanian men, and then your kids don't know Albanian.
I'm the example.
That doesn't mean you're keeping the language alive or the culture alive or anything.
That's what I said. That's what I said in a previous episode, that I'm fully 100% Albanian and I barely speak the language.
Exactly, because
my parents didn't teach it to me because I didn't want to be taught it, but whatever. But the point that I was trying to make that people completely took out of context is you don't have to be Albanian to keep the Albanian tradition alive. You have to consciously make sure you are teaching your kids, you're speaking to them in Albanian, you're cooking the food, you're making them listen to the music, you spend summers in Albania, in Kosovo. That is how you keep the tradition alive. It's not about who you marry. And keeping the tradition alive includes having your children around their cousins who are also Albanian, who they can vibe with and talk with and get along with.
Which you can't do if your baba disowns you.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, ultimately, all of our issues could be solved by mind your own business.
Mind your goddamn business. Who cares about what these people think? Stop caring about what people think.
Exactly.
Please. Okay.
I feel like 99.
Yo, please. I just like.
99.9% of our problems could be solved by Just mind your own damn business.
Yeah.
Like that's all. That's all to this. Yeah. And girl, good luck with your situation. Please keep us posted. Email us.
Well,
let us know. And if you don't invite us to your wedding, I'm calling your baba right now.
We'll snitch on you.
So we'll be waiting for our wedding invitation.
To the wedding. Oh my god, that wedding's gonna be so lit. I'm gonna be so offended if you don't invite us. And that's another
thing. Yes, Albanians have lit weddings that last a week or more. But imagine an Albanian Arabic wedding or like an Albanian and a Latin wedding.
Bitch, get out of here. I'm doing the bachata while I'm eating pita.
So we better get an invitation to your wedding. Good luck with your situation. Let us know your thoughts, please, in the comments below. Be respectful of your opinions and our opinions.
To our listener who sent us this email, I'm sending you love and we're sending you support, and we really, really hope that this episode I don't know, gave you some guidance. If you want to show your parents this episode, I would highly suggest that you do, so they can understand that. There are people like us using this. There are people like us that are on your side. We are on your side, girl. We are on your side. And maybe that'll diminish the fear that they have that people will judge you so hard or whatever. But
and if they do, who gives a...
Yeah, but you know, them, not her.
Yeah.
But really, truly, good luck with this situation. And from this email, I can tell that whoever you're dating, he sounds like a very awesome guy. He does, and I'm a little jealous. Does he have a brother?
All right, we're gonna get Dita back in the dating scene with non-Albanian guys, and when Dita has her wedding, all of our viewers are invited.
Yeah. Oh my god. But I don't want a wedding. I actually wanted to get married at City Hall like Mick Jagger and Bianca Jagger.
Okay, conversation for another.
Disappointment in your face. You're like, okay.
I'm gonna have my week-long wedding. Albanian husband or not?
Nah, you could keep that. I'm getting married at City Hall.
We'll see. But until then, until our weddings, follow us on Instagram, Vajza Gra. Subscribe on this YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Then listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And leave comments below. Give us suggestions on what you want to hear.
And continue emailing us.
Yes, please send us your stories. We love bringing them up.
Us. Yeah.
Any last words?
Remember, I love you and you're never alone.
Yes, girl. You are not alone. So go ahead and take care of the situation. Tell Baba.
Do it. I think you should do it.
Yeah.
You don't want to keep...
That's your person. Don't keep dragging it out. That way they'll get over it. The sooner you tell them, the sooner they'll get over it.
Yeah.
And mind your own business to the rest of y'all. Bye. Good night.
Nothing in here.